Deep in a quiet, sun-dappled forest, where the moss grows like a soft green carpet, and the trees whisper secrets to the wind, there was a charming little cottage. It was a very cozy cottage, built from sturdy wood and smooth river stones. A little curl of smoke always seemed to rise from its chimney, a gentle promise of warmth within. This was the home of the three bears. There was the great big Papa Bear, whose voice was a low, gentle rumble, like distant, summer thunder. There was the kind, middle-sized Mama Bear, whose voice was as soft and sweet as honey. And there was the wee little Baby Bear, whose voice was a tiny, quiet whisper. Every morning, the three bears would make their breakfast. Mama Bear would cook a delicious, creamy porridge, and pour it into three special bowls. A great big bowl for Papa Bear, a middle-sized bowl for Mama Bear, and a wee, little bowl for Baby Bear. But this morning, the porridge was much too hot to eat. So Papa Bear, in his deep, rumbly voice, said, "Let's go for a little walk in the woods while our porridge cools." And so, the three bears closed their cottage door and went for their walk among the tall, sleepy trees. Not long after they had left, a little girl came walking through the woods. Her name was Goldilocks, because her hair shimmered and shone like spun gold in the sunlight. She was not a naughty child, just a very curious one. She loved the feel of soft moss under her fingertips, the smell of pine needles, and the sound of birds singing their gentle songs. As she wandered, she saw the bears' cozy little cottage. The door was not quite closed, and a wonderful, warm, oaty smell drifted out. Feeling a little tired from her walk, and so very curious, she tiptoed to the door and pushed it open just a little. "Hello," she whispered. "Is anyone home?" There was no answer, only the quiet, peaceful hum of the little house. So she stepped inside. On the table in the cozy kitchen, Goldilocks saw the three bowls of porridge. She was feeling a little bit hungry, so she decided to have just a tiny taste. First, she went to the great big bowl that belonged to Papa Bear. She picked up the great big spoon and took a tiny sip. "Oh," she whispered to herself, "this porridge is far too hot." So, she moved to the middle-sized bowl. She took a taste from Mama Bear's porridge. She murmured, "this porridge is a little too cold." Finally, she tiptoed to the wee, little bowl that belonged to Baby Bear. It looked just right. She took a tiny taste with the wee, little spoon. "Ah," she sighed, "this porridge is perfect." It was not too hot, and not too cold. It was warm and sweet and comforting. It was so good, in fact, that she ate it all up. Feeling full and content, Goldilocks looked around the cozy living room. She saw three chairs by the fireplace. She decided she would like to rest for a moment. First, she sat in the great big chair that belonged to Papa Bear. "Oh my," she thought, "this chair is much too hard." The wood was firm and unyielding. So, she tried the middle-sized chair that belonged to Mama Bear. She sank into its cushions. "This chair is much too soft," she thought, as she nearly disappeared into its fluffy pillows. Then, she saw the wee little chair that belonged to Baby Bear. It looked so inviting. She sat down in it, and it felt just right. It was not too hard, and not too soft. It held her perfectly, like a gentle hug. She rocked back and forth, so peacefully, so comfortably, until the little chair gave a gentle creak and a groan, and it broke, letting her down softly onto the rug below. Now, Goldilocks was feeling very, very sleepy. The warm porridge, the cozy cottage, it was all making her eyelids feel heavy. She wandered upstairs to a sleepy little bedroom. And there, she saw three beds. First, she lay down on the great big bed that belonged to Papa Bear. "Oh, this bed is much too firm," she whispered, her voice growing tired. The blankets were heavy and stiff. So, she moved to the middle-sized bed that belonged to Mama Bear. "Oh, this bed is much too soft," she yawned. The pillows were so fluffy, she sank right down into them. Finally, she saw the wee little bed that belonged to Baby Bear. The quilt was stitched with little stars, and the pillow looked so welcoming. She lay down upon it, and it felt just right. It was the most comfortable, most perfect bed she had ever felt. The blanket was warm, the pillow was soft, and Goldilocks closed her golden eyes and drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep. After a little while, the three bears returned from their walk, feeling refreshed and ready for their breakfast. They walked into their cottage, and Papa Bear immediately noticed something was amiss. In his low, rumbly whisper, he said, "Someone's been eating my porridge." Mama Bear looked at her bowl, and in her soft, honey-sweet whisper, she said, "Someone's been eating my porridge." Then, little Baby Bear looked at his empty bowl, and in his tiny, quiet whisper, he said, "Someone's been eating my porridge, and they've eaten it all up." The three bears then looked towards their chairs by the fire. In his deep, rumbly whisper, Papa Bear said, "Someone's been sitting in my chair." In her soft, sweet whisper, Mama Bear said, "Someone's been sitting in my chair." And in his tiny, quiet whisper, Baby Bear looked at his little chair and said, "Someone's been sitting in my chair, and they've broken it all to pieces." Quietly, they went upstairs to the bedroom. Papa Bear looked at his bed. In his low, rumbly whisper, he said, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed." Mama Bear looked at her bed. In her soft, honey-sweet whisper, she said, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed." And then, little Baby Bear went to his wee, little bed. And in a tiny, breathy whisper, he said, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed, and here she is." The tiny, quiet whisper was just enough to stir Goldilocks from her deep sleep. She opened her eyes slowly, and saw the three kind, curious faces of the bears looking down at her. For a moment, she was startled. But she could see they weren't angry, just very, very puzzled. She didn't scream or shout. She simply sat up, slipped quietly out of the bed, and tiptoed past the three bears. She gave them a small, sleepy smile as if to say, "Thank you for the rest," and she hurried down the stairs and out the door, back into the quiet woods. She ran all the way home, and snuggled into her very own bed, which, for her, was the most just right bed of all. The three bears simply watched her go. They were not angry. They fixed the little chair, and Mama Bear made some more delicious porridge, and their cozy, quiet life in the woods went on, just as peacefully as before. And now, just like Goldilocks, it is time for you to rest in your own perfect bed. Let the story fade away, like a gentle dream. There is only comfort now, only peace. Feel the gentle rhythm of your own breathing, in and out, sinking deeper and deeper into relaxation, drifting, floating, into a wonderful, deep sleep. Sleep now, sleep well. Sweet dreams.